On behalf of the League of Women Voters of the Cooperstown area, welcome to the candidates debate for Otsego County Representative District 5. My name is Maureen Murray. I'm your moderator tonight. Joining me in running tonight's debate are League members Tom Schieber to keep track of time, Julie Sorensen and Patricia McLeish to gather and organize emailed questions from the audience, and Leanne Hirabayashi to provide tech support as needed. A note about tonight's program compared to the press release in local media. The League was hoping to include other Town of Hartwick contests in tonight's debate on the Zoom platform. However, we could not get the participation of candidates of 2 or more parties as required by League rules. I'm sharing my slide. Let me quickly review a few logistics. For those of you in our audience, if you wish to ask questions, email them to questions@lwvcooperstownarea.org. This email will be visible throughout the debate on one of the screens. Please include your name, the town you're from, and to which candidate you are addressing your question. If it's both candidates, just write both, or we'll assume that it is for both of them. We apologize in advance if we're not able to get to everyone's questions, and thank you for your understanding. For those of you in the audience who are familiar with the Zoom platform, we have intentionally disabled the Q&A and chat. If you're having technical issues or know someone who is, please send an email to forumsupport@lwvcooperstownarea.org. This email address will also be visible on one of the screens throughout the debate for your reference. This debate is being recorded. A link to the recording will be made available on the Cooperstown League's website in the next day or so. All right, stop sharing. This meeting has been planned and is conducted by the League of Women Voters of the Cooperstown area. It's actually been a bit over 100 years that the League has been empowering voters and defending democracy. Over the last century, we fought for election protection and equal access to the ballot. All this while maintaining our commitment to nonpartisanship and fostering an informed electorate. Yes, the League is a nonpartisan political organization. We are nonpartisan in that we do not support or oppose political parties or candidates. And we are political in that we believe democracy is not a spectator sport and that all citizens need to educate themselves and participate in our democracy. When not engaged in organizing and hosting candidate forums like these, League members study issues and policies, come to member agreement, and then advocate based on those decisions. We have retained the name League of Women Voters because of our suffragist roots, but for well over 50 years, men have been included in our membership. The Cooperstown Area League was founded in 1970. Over the years, this league has had a local impact on issues ranging from recycling to voting machine selection to the county administrator position and much more. We hope you will consider joining us. If you're interested, Please go to our website to find out more. Before we begin the debate, there is one important message the League would like to share. Vote. You're here for the debate, so we know you're engaged. Here are the important dates to keep in mind. October 18th is the last date for mailed, online, emailed, or faxed applications requesting to receive an absentee ballot. The application must be received by the Otsego County Board of Elections by that date. Applications may be delivered in person up until the day before an election. Early voting starts October 23rd and continues through October 31st. This year, there are 2 locations for early voting, one in Cooperstown at the Otsego County Board of Elections and one in Oneonta at the Foothill Performing Arts Center. Please check your County Board of Elections for times and places. November 1st is the last day to apply in person for an absentee ballot at the Board of Election. And November 2nd, big day, is the election day with polls open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. It's also the last day to postmark your absentee ballot or deliver it to your polling place. An additional point, there are 5 proposals to change the New York State Constitution on the ballot this year. Most important to remember, they're on the flip side of the ballot. So please don't forget to turn your ballot over. You can look at a sample ballot at the Otsego County Board of Election website. Now, let me give you a brief background on the Otsego County Board of Representatives and District 5. In just a minute. The County Board of Representatives passes local laws or resolutions as provided for in county law and the municipal home rule law. The board establishes the administrative structure for county government, including department organization and board committees. It's notable that Otsego County is the only county in New York State governed by a board of representatives. There are 14 districts, and the term is 2 years with no term limits. A county representative does not have a single vote on the board. Rather, Otsego County uses a system of weighted voting, and District 5 has the highest number of votes, which is 627. Tonight, we have with us 2 candidates for the Otsego County Board of Representatives, District 5, which covers the towns of Hartwick, Milford, and New Lisbon. The candidates in alphabetical order by last name are Meg Kennedy. Meg, say hello. Thank you. Hi. And Emily Popek. Good. The ground rules for this evening have been reviewed in advance by our candidates. Each candidate will have 4 minutes for an opening statement, the order of which was determined by a draw. Candidates may choose not to use all of the 4 minutes. The timekeeper will hold up a sign on the screen when 1 minute. Our timekeeper will put that up. Thank you. 30 seconds and 15 seconds remain, and a stop sign when time is up. After opening statements have been made, questions for the candidates will be taken from the audience. At the end of the question period, candidates will be able to make a brief 2-minute closing statement. Again, candidates may choose not to use all of the 2 minutes. We're scheduled to conclude at 9 p.m. at the latest. Okay, opening statements. Now the opening statement from Emily Popek.
Hi, everyone. I'm Emily Popek. I want to thank the League for organizing this event and for giving me the opportunity to participate. Some of you may know me from my time at the Daily Star, where I spent several years as a community editor and a few years after that as a managing editor. For those of you who don't know me, I've lived in Otsego County for 20 years, the past 10 at my home in the town of Milford. My husband owns a small business here in Otsego County, and my daughter goes to elementary school in Oneonta. What I want you to know about me is that I'm running to represent you on the Otsego County Board for 3 reasons. The first one is choice. I believe that democracy is at its best when voters are given a choice. If my opponent were running unopposed, we wouldn't have this opportunity to spend time with you tonight discussing the issues. The second reason is civic responsibility. Some time ago, probably a couple years ago, I came home from a meeting and I commented to my husband that I really love sitting in a room with people and solving problems. And he said, you know, that sounds a lot like government. And that's when I realized that I might have an interest in running for local office. I'm not an optimist or a pessimist. I'm a pragmatist. So my interest in any situation is to find out what's possible, to understand what can be done, what's the most responsible way to do it, and how do we get there together. Third, and probably most important to me, is communication. As a working parent, as a taxpayer, and as a communications professional, I know that public meetings are not a substitute for effective two-way communication. We're at a pivotal moment right now in the county with a new county manager in place, and it's high time for our county government to truly find new ways to engage all of our citizens in the decision-making process. That's something that I've seen the public school districts that I work with really make a difference in the initiatives that they are trying to move forward. Those really live or die based on the public engagement process and how effectively we can bring people in to the process, not just tell them what's happening, but really open up those lines of communication between our public institutions and the voting public. If elected, my goal is to do just that, to really open up county government so that all Otsego residents are not just allowed, but truly invited to participate and given ample opportunities across platforms to engage in two-way communications with your government. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Emily. And now opening statement from Meg Kennedy.
Thanks, Maureen. Thank you, League of Women Voters, for hosting us this evening. Thanks for everyone who zoomed in, and thank you, Emily, for being here as well. I also am interested in maintaining the District 5 representation for Hartwick, Milford, and New Lisbon. I also grew up a lifelong resident in the county of Otsego in the town of Hartwick, graduated from Cooperstown High School, and then went on to Cornell to the Ag College, then came home at where I've been working in our family greenhouse and flower growing business for the past, well, however many years it's been, quite a few. The work at home with the flower business, as that business has grown and changed, developed, we took on direct marketing opportunities, which led us to be involved in as a foundational member in the Cooperstown Farmers Market. We actually just received our 30-year Heirloom Vendor Award at their 30th year anniversary celebration last month. But anyway, the direct marketing work led to participating in the farmers market boards, which led to me being elected to something well before I was elected to the county board, representing my fellow vendors as part of their leadership teams on these very local levels. But there is a lot of work to be done governing an organization that has 25 to maybe 30 to 40 vendors, all depending on the success of the operation. So the leadership is key, and really that was a crucible for me in getting involved in leadership. How did I want to manage these things? We have to provide direction, leadership for the board, manage the finances, solve problems, and plan for future success. And I feel that those were opportunities for me to learn how to listen, how to communicate, how to work with a large and diverse group. Good listening leads to good decisions. And I feel that that was a great start for me. And we did a lot of listening as we led into the county administrator job. A lot of listening as we proposed a 2% hike in the occupancy tax, so outreach into the communities. So the farmers market was a great starting point for that. I joined the Hartwick Town Planning Board in 2010, which was my first foray into municipal experience, and then was elected to the county board in 2015. At the county level, the budgets are bigger, there's more people involved, but the skills that I've developed are still so useful in communicating, in gathering information, in asking questions, really finding what is the right question that needs to be asked. So many times makes a decision much easier to come to when you're asking the right questions, to gather data and make objective decisions. We've kept the budget under the 2% cap all of my years on the board. And that's been through hard work and decision making and careful, nuanced cutting and building here and cutting there. Again, for those early lessons in prioritizing, I feel I can go back to that farmers market and thank them for all of that. I've been enjoying the work on the county board. I enjoy interacting with my constituents, getting emails and phone calls. I'm honored to have represented the district, and I hope that you agree and send me back in November. Thank you.
Thank you, Meg. Now we'll move to questions from the audience. As stated earlier, for those of you in the audience, if you have not done so already, please use the email address on your screen. Email your questions to questions@lwvcooperstownarea.org. Your questions will come to us and will be posed to the candidates. Candidates will be limited to answers not to exceed 2 minutes. Candidates may decline to answer a question if they choose. Candidates wishing to answer questions not addressed to them may signal the moderator and gain the floor for no longer than 2 minutes. If a candidate wishes to follow up, they may do so for 1 minute at the discretion of the moderator. Now, only questions pertaining to the issues will be allowed, and although controversy and differing opinions are welcome, no personal or abusive questions or comments are permitted. These individuals have put themselves before the public by running for office, and that alone is a service that must be respected. The emailed questions are being reviewed and collated, so it's possible your question may be slightly reworded if it is similar to someone else's. We are focusing laser-like on asking questions of the candidates. So if you send a statement without a question, we will not read it. Should you wish to express your opinion on a subject with one of the candidates, we ask that you do so by contacting them directly. This evening, we'll get to as many questions as possible as time allows. The order for the response to the first question was determined by a draw, with Meg Kennedy going first, Emily Popek second. So our first question comes from the League. As you know, the League worked for more than 30 years in support of hiring a county administrator, and that was approved in November of 2019. Do you believe this was the right decision? And if you do, what will you do to help make the transition go smoothly? If you don't support the administrator, explain why and what you will do during this transition. We'll ask this of both candidates. And so Meg, would you take 2 minutes to answer that question?
Sure, Maureen. And I do approve of the position. I worked on an information gathering IGA committee for 2 years prior to the 2019 approval of the position. We had a second meeting every month. I am very supportive of the position, and we have hired this summer. We formulated a hiring committee and hired Joshua Beams, who is an Otsego County native who had been working for the Department of State, and he is in the position now. He's been at work for 1 week, and very much hope to be able to be supportive of him in the following ways, by listening to his comments as he may ask me questions. He's asked me about a couple of different things so far, giving him good information as to the object that he was requesting information about, and just really being supportive of anything. I don't want to say I'm giving him a carte blanche, but I really have been told by other county administrators who we've consulted in the process to go ahead with a very supportive and of the things that he's going to be proposing. Of course, going through proper county channels, but I would hope that I would be able to give him some of my experience over the couple of years that I've been on the board, why between how we do things, and just be an open ear for him and a sounding board, and also able to connect him to different resources of county administrators that I am familiar with through my work on the New York State Association of Counties Board of Directors. They've been very supportive of anything to do with the county administrator, and if he's asking for help, I'm ready to give him what I know.
Thank you, Meg. Emily, do you believe the county administrator was the right decision? And if you do, what will you do to help make this transition go smoothly? If you don't support the administrator, explain why and what you would do during this transition, please. 2 minutes.
Sure. Thank you, Maureen. I do support the position of the county manager. I agree with Meg that this was something that was needed at the county level, and I appreciate her work toward making that possible. I would really look to help professionalize that office and facilitate the county manager really taking on that leadership role of charting the course and being able to bring plans and proposals to the board for the board to weigh in, so that, in a way, as Meg said, to get out of his way a little bit and let him step into that role as fully as possible, so that the board is no longer trying to sort of do both of those things. The board can settle more into its role as that more advisory and legislative capacity, where we can take what we're hearing from the executive office, turn around to our community, and get that feedback that we need to inform the next steps at the county level. The other thing I would advocate for would be the creation of a public information officer at the county level to really streamline the communications process between the county manager, the county departments, and the general public, so that everyone in Otsego County knows who to call if they have a question, who to call if they have a problem, so that the media has one person to interact with, so that the county can really do more to control its own narrative and get information out more effectively to the general public through something like a public information office. I've seen how effective that role can be, especially for very large organizations with a lot of departmental difference, a lot going on at the departmental level. Having someone in that role would really help facilitate that smooth communication. And I think that would be a benefit to support the county manager role.
Thank you, Emily. The next question is from Martha Clarvo. And this will go to Emily first for 2 minutes. What do you think is the solution for improving our lack of emergency medical responders and firemen?
Sure. Thank you for that question. I think that there is a lot of wisdom in the idea of creating systems that function on a county-wide level. We know that at the town level, whether it is a volunteer or a paid department, that there are challenges in maintaining those systems at the town level, as far as getting people on board to deliver those services, and also just what it takes to maintain those departments. So I know that some of those challenges would still exist at the county level as well. But I also know that the county has more infrastructure in place to support a system on that scale. And to, there's those economies of scale that come when you scale up a system. If I'm a town trying to provide emergency services to the residents of my town, there are certain things I have to have just to fundamentally deliver those services. And if there is a way to make those services more efficient and more effective by delivering them across the county, then I think there would be an opportunity to realize some of those economies of scale. Again, I know that it's easier said than done, that there are a number of challenges to maintaining a system like that countywide. And I think that the collaboration and the participation of stakeholders at the town level would be instrumental in the success of any type of countywide system. But I do think that that is the direction that would be most beneficial for the county to go, because we have seen the difficulties and the challenges that are being faced at the town level. And I think the county has the opportunity to step in and help.
Thank you. Meg, the question about how to improve the lack of emergency medical responders and firemen.
Right. So we were discussing this in depth for months now at the county level, with the purchase of 2 ambulances and the approval of 18 staff members to staff those ambulances. It's kind of not the entire picture, but one of the county representatives brought up the point that is the value of the volunteer services is valued in the millions of dollars every year. This is a big lift to take this to the county level. The budget alone for the staffing of those ambulances is over $800,000. And so you begin to realize the incredible value of the volunteer agencies. And there's talk of trying to coordinate this as a shared service. The governor, our previous governor, had a shared services policy in place where you would realize the savings, and then the towns would be reimbursed for the savings that they had, the money they had spent, and the amount of the savings could be given back to the towns. And we were hoping to get this in as a shared service, but as Emily mentioned, getting the stakeholders at the primary level to engage in these discussions is really, really important. And as we go forward, we can only see that the aging of the people who are doing the responding is they're aging, and we don't want them to burn out. And so revitalizing them through shared services, through county-wide services is definitely, I think, the direction that we're going to be going. And the big question that comes up next is, how are we going to pay for it? And there are a couple of different things that we're floating through the county right now. They all have to actually be approved at the state level. So it's an in-depth conversation. It's well worth having and putting the time into solving this.
Thank you. I want to take a minute now to remind our participants to use the questions at lwvcooperstownarea.org to email your questions. We've got folks who are monitoring that and working with me to get your questions to me. So use your voice, and you will be able to ask questions of our candidates. Next question will go to Meg to start. It's for both of you, though. It comes from Tracy DeLillo in Lawrence. I believe after serving 2 terms on the Otsego County Board, you are eligible for lifetime health insurance. What is your opinion on this benefit? And will you take advantage of this after your 2 terms,
So,
Meg?
okay, the 2 terms is not the correct amount of terms. I only have heard this as like a legend. I don't really know that much about it, but I thought that I heard that it was 12 years, which would be 6 terms. And that again is very hypothetical. I never really nailed anyone down to ask that to see if it was true, but I have heard that, but I don't know for sure if, I know it isn't 2. What I had heard was 6. And that was coming from a representative who was like serving in his 5th or 6th term. So I think that it's probably much more than 2. Whether or not I would take it, I really have no idea. I would depend on what was, it's a lot of work. I will say that. I would feel that I earned it. I'll just say that much. After this past year with the pandemic and extra meetings and all the time that I spend, I hope that doesn't sound flippant, but I do feel that it is a job that doesn't have a high paycheck, but it really takes up a lot of time every week and every month. So I would think about it.
Thank you, Meg.
Mm.
Emily, you would be new to it, but have you heard about this as a fact or as a legend?
This is the first I've heard of it, but I can tell you that I am actually employed by Albany County. So they have got me pretty well covered as far as health insurance. So I do not at this time see the need to turn to any other county for my health insurance needs.
Thank you. The next question will go to Emily to start. From Leanne in the town of Hartwick. What are the top 2 issues facing the Board of Representatives in the next 2 years? Why and where do you stand on these issues?
Thank you. That's a lot to cover in 2 minutes, but I'm going to do my best.
Mhm.
And the 2 issues that I'm going to talk about, I think, are interconnected. So the first issue is strategic planning. Again, I really feel that with the new county manager in place, this is really, truly a pivotal moment for the county. And this is really an opportunity for the county to engage in some strategic planning work with an executive in the leading role and start looking beyond just the next crisis, beyond the next crumbling road or bridge, and start thinking more effectively and more depthfully about the long-term future of our county and doing some serious planning about where do we want to go and how do we want to get there. And that relates to the second issue that I see facing our county, which is an issue of infrastructure. We know that our roads and bridges need a lot of work. And beyond that, there's digital infrastructure too, that for many people in our county is still lacking. I think we've sort of hit up against some of the guardrails of what the county can do to bring more broadband to our residents, but that doesn't mean we stop trying. And so I think those 2 things are interconnected, right? We cannot address our infrastructure needs without effective long-term strategic planning. And without effective long-term strategic planning, we're never going to be able to get our infrastructure under control. We can't wait until things are an emergency to only tackle them then. We can't sort of keep swinging from one crisis to the next. Obviously, COVID, no one had that one on their bingo card. We didn't have that on our roadmap, but the beauty of a really good, well-developed strategic plan is that it can adapt to those changing circumstances. I'm not saying we would have been ready for a pandemic, but I am saying that the lessons we've learned over the last couple of years, I think can inform us going forward. And that's really an area of focus that I would like to help bring to the board.
Thank you, Emily. Meg, where the 2 most important issues facing the board, where do you stand on the issues and why?
Okay, I think Emily teed this one up very nicely when she talked about the strategic plan. That is something that we definitely are dusting off. We've had committee meetings on strategic plan. It's something that bringing on the county administrator is going to open up this opportunity for the committees and the departments to go into the strategic plan and identify key areas where we could do a 5-year plan, a 3-year plan, to kind of strategically plan and budget for these kinds of bigger ticket items that are coming down the in our future. Our county highway building has been identified as potentially needing replacement. Also, the broadband as a topic, and then the roads and bridges. These are all things that are significant price tags on them, and they really would just benefit so much from having a strategic plan. And that was the idea with bringing on the county administrator, to allow for this kind of planning, these kind of in-depth discussions to come into the light and try and figure out how we're going to pay for these things. The 2% tax cap that we have in the county, for us, we have a very sales tax based budget. We have our county tax levy is about $12 million that we get from the taxpayers, and about 100+ million that we get through reimbursement, state and federal. So that leaves us with about 250,000 a year that we can increase without popping over the cap. So I would like to work on these kinds of things as well, as Emily mentioned, but also really significantly thinking about broadband and cell service countywide, and also paying for that county ambulance service and building that up to be a really, it's a big lift that we took on, and it's a priority to make sure that that gets off the ground and running.
Thank you, Meg. Our next question is for both of you, and we'll ask Meg to answer first. From Martha Clarbeau. How do you plan on improving communication between the county and the constituency, your constituency? Meg.
Okay, so my constituency, I have my emails and my phone number posted, 3 phone numbers and an email posted on the website. I also attend the town meetings in Hartwick, in Lawrence, and in Milford every month. So I'm there to answer questions that the town leaders might have, also to, provide information to them about what's going on at the county and how it might, what resources the county might have to offer the town. And we have a kind of a back and forth every month at the town level. I feel that I also run our business. I am not on social media, so I can't promise that I'm going to have a Facebook page because I really don't have Facebook. But I do have a cell phone, and I do answer my emails, and I take phone calls at all hours. And I really would like to just go back to that public information office, and the county administrator will become initially the public information officer for the county. So I'd like to use that office to push information out to everyone who's needing to know more about what's going on in the county.
Thank you, Meg. Emily, how would you improve communication between yourself and your constituency, yourself on the county board?
Sure. So I think that all the things that Meg described are really important, right? We know it's important for our constituents to know how to reach us. We know it's important to have those dialogues with representatives at the town level. But one thing that I know personally and professionally is that meetings cannot be a substitute for discussion and engagement. Public meetings are not a place where a lot of effective dialogue can happen because of the structure of public meetings, right? Public engagement is limited, or it can be limited. Often the elected representatives who are engaged in that public meeting are not really going to have a dialogue with people who have come to the meeting to speak, right? So as an elected representative, I would need to find other ways to have that kind of dialogue with constituents. And what I know as a communications professional is that in 2021, people have an expectation that the information that matters to them is going to be served to them. It's going to be pushed to them. They are waiting for us to tell them what is happening. There are those people who are going to pick up the phone and call, they're going to send an email, and that's really important. But there are a lot of other people out there who are not going to take that step because that's just not what they're accustomed to doing. And I think if I were elected, I would try to do more as far as, potentially some of it would include using social media. That's a medium that I'm comfortable with. I know not everyone is, not all of my constituents would be if I were elected. So that wouldn't be good enough. I would also need to find other ways to have face-to-face engagement with people where we could talk informally outside the structure of a public meeting. I'm doing an event later next month to bring people together for small group discussions around a focused topic and have facilitated conversations. And I think that kind of model is really, really important for those big, big, big pushes that government is trying to do. And that's what I would try to bring to the county.
Thank you. Thank you, Emily. The next question from Paul Clarvo. We will start with Emily. How do you believe the county can move away from baseball tourism and create more jobs in the county?
Yeah, that's a really big question, right? I think that that's something that local leaders have been scratching their heads over for as long as I've lived here. I don't think there are any easy answers, but what I think would be really important would be to start with the kind of thing that I was just talking about. One of the things I think about a lot is how much do we know about the businesses that local residents would actually patronize, not just the things that people sort of say they want, but what are the types of businesses that people actually would or do interact with on a daily basis. And then I know it's not as if we can just wave a magic wand and make those businesses appear, right? If only it were that simple. But I do also know that there are, certainly in the time that I've lived here, I've seen such a blossoming of small businesses, people starting their own small businesses, including in areas of industry that I wouldn't have anticipated, things like, butcher shops or things like that, weren't really around in our region when I first moved here. And if there's a way to connect those dots and to let people know and understand that, hey, if you are someone who is thinking about starting up a small business, we have this information about the kinds of businesses that people are actively interested in patronizing in your community, and making some more of those connections obvious and transparent to the people involved. I think that's one thing that we could do at the county level to bring some more of those, make some more of those connections for people.
Thank you, Emily. Meg, baseball tourism versus jobs.
Okay, so we really found out in 2020 that baseball tourism is something that might not always be there. So it's really good to plan a solid foundation. And some of the things that we can do, and we get reports from the IDA, from Otsego now, is to, which we do support at the county level, we do provide them with some level of funding, and they are helping to attract businesses. And really one of the things that has changed in that narrative is kind of pushing the county as a good place to live, as a good place to want to move to. And there's a couple of things that we could do to help support that and strengthen that. And I think by providing a wide access to broadband is really key to that. So many there's a lot of information-based businesses that would potentially move into the area, supporting our biggest employers with the kinds of employees that that they would want to move here, and sometimes they would, so that the spouse would also want to move here. So we want to incentivize, or just not incentivize, but actually to have it be a place where people can come, increasing manufacturing jobs. Congressman Delgado was just in Hartwick today at the Cooperstown Bat Company, emphasizing made in America, so we could pick up on that and continue. And also ag as a continuing expanding sector in the economy. There's a lot of land, farmland that could be used, and just incentivizing young farmers to get involved. and find a way to get that land from into the next generation of younger people, and continue with the long-standing tradition of a strong agricultural economy in the county too.
Thanks, Meg. The next question is from Patricia in Cooperstown, and it's about the bed tax. Should the county consider sharing this revenue with local municipalities? And we'll ask Meg to begin this for 2 minutes.
Okay, so starting my 2 minutes, I do think that it would be great if we could find an equitable way to get that bed tax money pushed back in part out to the municipalities. And the year before I came on the board, there was big discussion of it, but there was not a way that anyone could ever decide, oh, this is a fair way to do it. So it was kind of deprioritized during the past couple of years. It hasn't really been a high priority, but I would think that and there's support on the board to try and do this, to get a percentage of that money back into the municipalities who are generating the revenue for the county, because it is a significant amount of money. It's about $2 million in a normal year. Not, of course, last year it was about 500 to 600,000, but it is a worthy idea, and we just have to find the time and make the effort to figure out a strategy to get it back to the towns and villages.
Thanks, Meg. Emily, how would you manage sharing the county revenue, bed tax revenue, with local municipalities?
Yeah, and I will say, I agree with Meg in principle on this, that it's worth pursuing. And I understand the complexities of figuring out, right? It's one thing to say we should do this. It's another thing to say, how is it going to work? I don't have an answer to that question. I would say, what comes to mind for me is to see if there are other models out there that have worked in other communities, in other counties. Are there models we can look to so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel? We don't have to come up with this from scratch, and find a model that would in some way fit. I think that there's a lot of benefit and advantage, and especially as far as an incentive goes, to seeing some of that money go back to the local level. One of my concerns about the bed tax is the extent to which it's maybe not equitably distributed or enforced or collected. Who is paying into the bed tax, who isn't? Are there properties that are kind of going under the radar and things like that? So I wonder if there was a way for some of that money to come back to the locality, if that would incentivize, more equitable collection of the bed tax, because, now there's a little more skin in the game, so to speak. So I could see that as a way to, to work toward resolving that question of how would this actually play out.
Thank you. I'll stop and say again for our audience to remind you to submit your questions to questions@lwvcooperstownarea.org. Our next question from Martha is about curbside pickup of food waste for both of you. Are you in support of the curbside food waste composting for businesses and residents that's being promoted by the county? Emily, you're up first for 2 minutes.
Okay, well, I will say that I'm not very familiar with this issue. So I'm going to be speaking on principle without a lot of knowledge of the details of the program that's being proposed. I can see the benefits of people having access to curbside pickup of food waste. I think that encouraging people to, not put food waste in the garbage is a good thing. I can understand that there may be some structural or logistical difficulties with how that program would be implemented. Again, not knowing the details of what has been proposed. So, I would be interested to learn more about it. I would like to see if there's a way that the county could do something like that. But I don't know what the challenges are right now that have been associated with that proposal. So I apologize that I can't speak to it in more detail.
Thank you. Meg, what do you think about it?
Well, I think, and as I think that it has been proposed for larger institutions at this point. So like the colleges and bigger, I think mostly just the colleges. So I think that they have the capacity to kind of train, get that kind of a program going. I know that food waste it's heavy. We want to kind of reduce the amount of municipal solid waste that we're collecting. So anytime that we have an opportunity to remove a big portion of something from the waste stream, then that's a good thing. It does come with its associated challenges and costs, so they would have to weigh that in the benefit. But I think initially I am definitely in favor of continuing, and I think just Emily, there is a program in place, a kind of a partnership with, I'm not exactly sure who all the players are, but we have talked about it a little bit in committee for solid waste and environmental concerns, that they do have the framework is sort of set up, but I would, before it went to being like for residents, we would have to kind of work the kinks out of it as far as institutionally, and I would be interested in following up on that. I definitely am. Again, we have to, weigh the costs and figure out how this would be paid for, and the savings. Obviously, if we're saving money by taking food out of the garbage, we're not paying that much for it. So we could figure it out. And I definitely am in favor of also having people do their own composting, or like team up with this. Some businesses are doing composting as well. So. And again, it comes with its own complications. They have to make sure that, all that they don't take certain foods because they attract vermin, shall we say. So yeah, there's a lot of complications that go into it, but in favor. Okay.
Thank you, Meg. Good. Here's a question on climate change. Do you think the heavy rains and flooding we're having and this warm weather are related to climate change? Meg, we'll ask you to start this off.
So I think the climate is always kind of in a state of change. And one of the more interesting things that I was told, early on in discussion with different people, that regardless of what is, if it's climate change or just weird weather, we need to be ready for it. So in whatever's causing the rain and the different kinds of precipitation or extremely warm fall, we kind of just our responsibility as elected officials is to make sure that our hazard mitigation plan is in place, and to have communities becoming more resilient in as many different ways as they can. So regardless of this is the reality, so we're in a position where we need to kind of cope with what the reality is. So that is where I come from on this, and it's kind of helped solve some of the things that we've discussed on the county board over the past couple of years.
Thank you, Meg. Emily, climate change locally.
Yeah, so I certainly believe that, man-made climate change exists. I believe that climate change has the capacity to produce extreme weather. So it's not a far leap to think about, is that what we're seeing here? And to Meg's point, we have to be ready for it no matter what the cause is. And also, I think, we have some responsibility to take in those aspects of man-made climate change. Certainly the news over the last couple of years has made it really clear that the time to take action is not just now, it's already passed. I believe there's an urgency in addressing factors that contribute to climate change, and that the county has a role to play in this. And, if keeping food waste out of our solid waste program is one way to do that, then I think that's great. I think it's much more than that. And I think we have a responsibility to, be part of the solution and not part of the problem, and to be ready for whatever may come as far as extreme weather goes.
Thank you. The next question comes from Elva Mani, and it asks about retaining younger residents. The question is, what are your ideas for encouraging our talented youth to return to our area after high school, after their high school training and education? For Emily.
I thought so, but I wasn't sure. I was going to wait till you said. Yeah, I think that's a really big question. I moved to this area when I was 20, and I certainly can see the ways in which, there might be aspects of moving to other communities that could be appealing to young people. I think there's a couple of things we can do. I think some of that work is already underway. In Milford School, I worked with the core program there to really help start building some very direct and explicit relationships between high school students, high school curriculum, and local business. And I thought that was a really exciting initiative. I hadn't seen anything like that happening in our region. And I thought it's a great model for, again, just really bringing those puzzle pieces together. And I would love to see more of that kind of thing happening where where there's a way to turn to local businesses and say, what do you need? And turn to local educators and say, what can you do to meet that need? So that our young people can see, and our adults as well, can truly see the opportunities that do exist around us, because those things are not always obvious to us. Our region is home to a fair number of industries that are not creating things that are being sold directly to the consumer. So the level of awareness about those industries among sort of, the average public may be very low. The more we can do to kind of shine a light on those opportunities that do exist and just show people that there are opportunities here, I think the more we can make sure our young people are aware of that too. And I think part of it is cultural as well. I think the way that we talk to each other and ourselves about this region is really, really important, because, the kids listen and they hear it too.
Thanks, Emily. Meg, how would you retain our younger residents?
So I think that primarily we want to look at our economic development field and look at jobs, what kind of jobs are available, what kinds of jobs are in the pipeline maybe to be created. We have a lot of manufacturing jobs in electronics, as well as in food as well. We really want to get the younger people involved. And one of the things is marketing the county as a great place to live. So when we're marketing it to the tourists, we actually could also be marketing it to those same young people. All of the things that are true for tourists makes it a great place for us to want to live as well. It's a place where people want to be. So we have wonderful outdoor recreational opportunities that are touted by the tourism, but they're also for us as residents as well. The arts and a connectivity with the outside world through a lot of they really need to have their broadband and cell phone coverage. So these are, again, priorities. If we work on our infrastructure and we make this a place where people are going to want to visit, we want to make it a place where people want to live. And some of those same underlying infrastructures are going to do the same. They'll bring the other people in to want to live here. But again, it's getting the jobs and it's maintaining them and finding out, what is the right blend of what are the skills they need, what are the jobs that we have here, and also pushing for the Centers for Innovation and Creativity. The IDA is researching starting up a project like this, and it's something that is going to help bring creativity and innovation to our area. And And in the same time, I would hope to keep some of these bright younger minds coming back to the county to decide this is where they want to stay and raise a family.
Thank you, Meg. We have no other question this minute. I'm going to spend a couple of seconds summarizing the statement. So if you have a question, get it in real quick and we'll let you get it in under the wire. But using up some time, in the last 40 minutes or so, we have discussed the following wide range of topics. And with just the two of you, Emily and Meg, there's been no break hardly. If we had 3 or 4 candidates, so I know we go from one to the other and then you're just back to back. So good for you for sticking with us and staying focused. We have discussed the county administrator and support for the county administrator and what would make the administrator's job easier. We've talked about EMS and firemen and the challenges locally, health insurance for the Otsego County Board of Representatives, whether it's true or a legend, and how many terms of office one must stay in office in order to get that prize. We talked about the most important issues as seen by our candidates. Our candidates thought strategic planning, infrastructure, which includes digital, broadband, and a county plan for EMS were those important issues. We talked about communication and jobs in our county versus baseball tourism. We talked about bed tax and the curbside pickup of food waste, local climate change, and retaining younger residents. So that's very, very broad and a wonderful array of elements. And do we have a question coming in? No, okay. No additional questions, so okay. We'll be ready now for our 2-minute closing statement from each candidate, if you wish to do so. The order of the closing statements was determined by a draw and is the reverse of the opening statements. The closing statement from Meg Kennedy will begin now. Thank you, Meg.
Okay, so thank you everyone for listening tonight, and thanks Emily so much. I really have enjoyed this conversation. Thank you, Maureen, for moderating. I thank everyone who's listening, and I just would like to say that if I am reelected to the office, I do look forward to continuing to listen to the constituents by phone, email, whether you need to report a dilapidated house, you need help navigating DSS, or getting in touch with the senator or an assembly member or an online application. I am here to assist and facilitate that and look forward to having that opportunity. I hope to continue to support economic development through supporting the Otsego Now IDA, the Chambers of Commerce in Cooperstown and Otsego County, the Tourism Board, and I also hope to transition in the county administrator, get the countywide ambulance paid for and up and running, continue efforts to understand and get broadband infrastructure in place, as well as wider self-service in the county, continue my work on the land bank, the Greater Mohawk Valley Land Bank that works with foreclosed properties and returns them to the tax rolls, continue my work on the Soil and Water Board, which gets federal and state monies into farms to work on better conservation practices. It's been my honor to serve the District 5 residents on the county board, and it is my hope that I would continue to represent you on the county board. And thanks very much for tonight, and I appreciate everyone listening. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Meg. Closing statement from Emily Popek.
Thank you. I want to thank you so much for this opportunity tonight. Thank you to the league, to Meg for participating in this conversation. It has been great to talk tonight. and to everyone for tuning in and asking your questions. It's been a real privilege to speak with you tonight, and it would be a privilege to serve you as well. I'm a problem solver. I like a challenge. I really like working together with people to solve problems. It's not everybody's idea of a good time, but it is mine. I'm a communications professional by trade, and I believe that District 5 deserves to hear from its county representative directly, that it would be my job to reach out to you, not to wait for you to call me. I want the residents of District 5 to know that they don't have to sit through a board meeting or read through the minutes to try to figure out what happened, because I'm going to tell you what happened. If you want to hear from me, you will, whether that's on social media, whether that's at a public forum, or even an old-fashioned mailer in your mailbox. I know that people out there are busy, just like I am. You're working, you're parents, you have responsibilities, and you still deserve to be brought into the process of government. So I want to help make that possible. I want to help connect you to your county government. I want to help get you engaged with what's happening at the county level. And I believe that I have the tools and experience to do that effectively at this pivotal time in our government's future. With a county executive at the helm, we really have an opportunity to move things forward. And I'd like to be a part of working on your behalf to get the best possible outcome for our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Emily. I just need to share the screen again. And say thank you to the candidates and my fellow league members working behind the scenes and next to me, and to the audience for making this a valuable and informative and engaging event. Good for us all. If you wish to contact the candidates or your local league, here is how to reach us. Again, thank you and good night.